This week on Dan Really Likes Wine with Norman Goodfellows, a culinary pilgrimage to the heart of KwaZulu-Natal and the chance to try the food and wine pairings at the Living Room at Summerhill, where Chef Johannes and sommelier Johanna Richter put together a combination that's the envy of many. First of all, though, the chance to try out Franschhoek, not just the newest vintages from some of the Valley's finest producers, but also the latest wine news from a part of the world that is increasingly becoming one of the great wine capitals.
Go back to my university days, and Franschhoek was the space I first fell in love with in the winelands, going out and discovering the La Motte Millennium, drinking 20-round bottles of Chamonix Rouge, strolling through the streets of what was then a slightly smaller, slightly quieter town, and discovering a real love of the food and wine of the Huguenot Valley. Fast forward to 2024, and we've got a whole pile of the very best winemakers from Franschhoek up in Johannesburg, reminding us of just what a special place it is.
Yeah, so it's great to be up in Joburg again. We did a trade media tasting last year, and again it's time to bring the crowd up and just showcase what we are doing in the Franschhoek Valley now. I think a lot has changed in the last 10 years. Young bunch of winemakers and guys that have been in the valley for 10 to 20 years. And also the styles changed. We're understanding how our terroir works, how our soil works, and also how to manage the cultivars that we have in the valley at the moment. So overall, yeah, great experience. I think the wine showed incredibly well. And I think the attendees really got a sense of place when it comes to our Franschhoek wines. So unfortunately, we only have about 12 producers here. The Franschhoek Vignerons is a combination of 45 winemakers. Not everyone can come up to Joburg on a Monday morning and enjoy your lovely weather. But yeah, we basically went through all our top 5. So Sauvignon Blanc we had from Terra Plausible, Chardonnays we had from quite a few producers, Semillon, which is obviously world-renowned, Franschhoek Semillon, Old Vine from 3 or 4. We had phenomenal Syrahs, and then a couple of red blends. Hardeman's also ended with some phenomenal big Bordeaux right banks. So no, overall phenomenal. It's interesting. You always taste your wines at home, and you hope it shows well when you're over here. And in a lineup, you pick up your wine up straight away. You know the characteristics. You know what blocks it comes from. So it's a phenomenal experience to be up here and taste the wines. Franschhoek's well known for their Semillons, and I think the Semillons showed very, very well. Stylistically as well, difference between our old collection Semillon that's in 4, quite low alcohol, compared to the Rickley Bridge. It shows you stylistic differences, but also what the terroir does. And then I think the red blends did really well. Anything with a bit of Syrah from the Franschhoek Valley really showed well. Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc from Anthony Rupert and from Hardeman's were particularly good. So no, the reds, I think the Chardonnay showed the best out of all the flights, but I think the reds really impressed.
So I think one of the really fascinating issues, characteristics of the Franschhoek Wine Valley is the diversity of climate, the diversity of terroir, diversity of soil types, and the diversity of varietals which are planted throughout the valley. And what we've seen at the tasting this morning is a real mix of different expressions. So Chardonnay from different parts of the valley, Semillon from different parts of the valley, from some old vineyards. And then we come to the reds, and obviously Franschhoek's very well known for its Cabernet Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc. And Cabernet Franc, we tasted 2 examples, one from Anthony Rupert from the entrance to the valley, which is on more rolling soils, north-facing, and then the Hardeman's Cabernet Franc Reserve, which is just a 2,000 bottle run of production, where we sit in the southernmost corner of the Franschhoek Valley, surrounded on 3 sides by mountains. So we've had sort of some extremes this year. We're almost 2,000 millimeters of rain in our corner of the valley, whereas in the centre of the village, probably only 1,500 millimeters of rain. So we do get a lot of rain where we are, but we also get some really long, beautiful growing days, which adds to the complexity of the reds. And I think that comes through in the Cabernet Franc that we've tasted today.
You know, we're so lucky and we're so spoilt in Franschhoek with the diversity. If you come into Franschhoek, they can have finished harvesting before us in what we call the boerhoek have even started. So, I mean, that as a starting point must explain the diversity of our soils and the wines that we produce. And it's always been difficult. Everyone has said, you know, put your finger on something that you think is Franschhoek. What is Franschhoek known for? And I find it difficult to do that because even on the Brie we have a diversity of cultivars that we planted because we plant according to what the soil type is that I've got available and what I think will express the most. But I think what is really taking off in Franschhoek, and in fact we've just had a whole weekend about it, is the Cup de Sick route. I think we have, just in one small area in Franschhoek, the highest number of Cup de Sick producers. Arguably not everyone producing 100% Franschhoek, because as you know, our parcels are so small, to try and do everything from the valley is difficult, but they do buy in, but they are promoting Cup de Sick as something that the farms and the wineries in Franschhoek do really, really well. There is a small selection of us who are able, like we do a vintage Cup de Sick, 6 years on the lees, 100% Chardonnay from an old block on the farm. And I think Cup de Sick allows us to showcase what I think is one of the varieties that does exceptionally well in Franschhoek, which is Chardonnay. And this event today was just such a wonderful way of showing the diversity of Franschhoek, how you can range from Cup de Sick to Chardonnay to Semillon to Syrah and Cab Franc. And each person can showcase their wine and say, listen, on my soil, where I am in the valley, this is what I think is the best opportunity and the best thing that I can use to showcase Franschhoek itself. So at Le Brie, with our variation in soil types, we've identified a patch which I thought would work exceptionally well for Chardonnay. And we planted 3 specific clones, champagne clones, because my idea eventually is to be able to produce more Cup de Sick. But in the meantime, chosen 95, which I think is a fruit-forward clone, shows really what Chardonnay can give you. And then 2 Cup de Sick clones, 277 and 548, to add a weightiness, a mouthfeel, and then a linearity. And we showcase today at this Franschhoek event our brand new release of the 2023 Barrel Select Chardonnay. It's not even actually on the market yet. And it's the first vintage that we've made 100% from that new block. And it was fascinating for me to take those barrels, and we chose a 600 and 300 barrel, and which clone would work to still promote the style that we want in that final wine. And I mean, how blessed can you be? You're playing with various soil types, you can play with various clones, and really try and showcase the wonder that Franschhoek can actually give to all our visitors coming to the valley.
We're showcasing some Terre Paisible wines today at the Franschhoek Festival. And Terre Paisible is sort of, as you arrive on the entrance to Franschhoek, on the Franschhoek main road, there's a little road called the Wemmershoek Road that takes you through to Paarl and Wellington. I like to call it the gateway to Franschhoek. And Terre Paisible is about 1.5 kilometers down that road. Terre Paisible means peaceful land, and we're on in this alluvial floodplain. It's a very distinct soil type, lots of river pebbles and beautiful heavy loam beneath that, so quite vigorous conditions for vines. And we are, I guess we specialize in Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc. And today I've brought 2 different examples of Sauvignon Blanc, our Vigne d'Or Sauvignon Blanc, and then our sort of flagship Sauvignon Blanc called Les Dames de 87, which means the ladies of 1987. And that's a tribute to the date when the vineyard was established. So it's a registered old vine Sauvignon Blanc vineyard. And then we also have a Chardonnay from the 2022 vintage that we'll be showing at lunchtime.
Hi, my name is Pierre Lowe from Links Wine Estate. We're a small wine farm out in Franschhoek, a boutique wine farm. We do about 70,000 bottles a year, specializing mainly in red wine varietals, more so Bordeaux varietals. Today I had my Spirit of Links, which is basically the best wine that we have at Links Wine Farm. It is a fantastic blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot and Merlot. I love blends. I really love playing with the different varietals, all the different aspects. And each personality of each varietal really has so much to offer that if you just sit with it a bit, it really does help and make you realize how great you can make a blend. We've had some fantastic blends here today from Franschhoek, Holden Muntz, Links, and Chamonix as well. Really, really interesting blends, also different, but also special and unique. Just really kind of showing us all here today what beautiful varietals have to do in Franschhoek.
Exciting times in Franschhoek, and wine that just gets better and better, matched by some great personalities in the French Huguenot village. That's more than just fine food. The wine is not just caught up, but is giving the food a run for its money. Speaking of food and wine competing, Johannes and Johanna Richter shot to global fame with a victory coming out atop the Eat Out Awards just 2 years ago. How good is the food? How well do the wine pairings do? Well, Dan Really Likes Wine went on a voyage of discovery and came out feeling that this is something special.
So rewind to the back end of 2022, and this particular restaurant became the talking point in South Africa, Restaurant of the Year. Now, the next morning I got online to book a table, and the first table I could get was in September 2024. That's how popular this place is. So finally, I've been able to get to the living room. It's a world-class chef, it's a world-class sommelier, and it's an experience I can't wait to get stuck into.
Mine's again based in the Walkerby area. Cape White blend, Sauvignon Blanc, then a little bit of Semillon, some Chardonnay and Chenin Blanc. Also there's a hint of Muscat that is throwing in just for a little bit of seasoning. And then, yeah, all fermented in the big 500 liter barrels, old barrels, just to round it off. And then first dish is based around the guava roll with some acacia honey and some bitter greens out the garden. And then with this beautiful sweet tropical bitterness, just brings it together beautifully.
So already exactly the kind of wine I was imagining would light up today. It's a white wine that not many people will have heard of. It's not a huge production. It's loads of different varietals. It's layered. It's textured. It's full of all manner of flavour. It's crying out for a great meal. Although it's great on its own as well. This is why she's so good at what she does.
We have got a really, really beautiful trout that we get up from Bushman's River, which is basically like the first instance outside the nature reserve. So it's this pristine, clean water in which this trout is aquacultured. And we've cured it lightly and then just done a sashimi cut of it, but left it relatively thick to have a bit of integrity on that. And paired that up on the one side with a whole bunch of different onion aromas. So we've got some wild garlic as well as a bit of potato onion in there. And on the fruity side, we've got a little bit of quince that we've just brought into the dish as well. One has pearls and the other one just has preserved quince.
So next one we're having from Alex McFarlane, Captain and Wolf White. Beautiful blend, Semillon, Chenin Blanc, Franschhoek and Stellenbosch. With this gorgeous creaminess, richness, and then it kind of cuts through the richness of the dish so beautifully.
So go back a few years and Alexandra McFarlane was not somebody I knew terribly well. In fact, her name had barely crossed my wine horizon. But the last couple of years, I've really come to know and love her wine, led by a Semillon-inspired rosé she makes that is full of depth and excitement and character, but also wines like this particular one. And this is a ever so slightly unusual combination. It's Chenin and Semillon. We don't see that a lot, but she clearly loves Semillon. She clearly knows what she's doing. Throw in some Chenin. And the only thing this needs is some trout sashimi. I'm going to sound like the worst caricature of every food critic ever, but it's both subtle and intense at the same time. It's such a delicately done dish and yet still bursts full of flavour. throw in the wine. Yeah, I'm moving here. I'm actually, sorry if you're watching this, my wife, Dimitra, I'm leaving home. I'm moving to the living room. I'm actually living right here for the foreseeable future. This is phenomenal.
The next dish, so this time of year we always struggle a little bit with our small suppliers, just in the form of, excuse me, the diversity of products that they supply us with. And without compromising on our ethos of sustainability, we've come up with the next dish, which revolves around unripe strawberries that come from a local farm, as well as macadamias from the north coast and heirloom peppers from Durban and Kisomos from summer. So we've just pickled these unripe strawberries like you would a gherkin, sliced them really thinly and placed them on top of like a macadamia cheese that we made with the solids from the macadamia milk that I'm going to pour just now. On top of that, we've got a bit of a barbecue pepper gel to add a little bit of richness, sweetness, smokiness, a couple of the sun-dried roast and smoked peppers, and a little bit of fresh jalapeno just to add a little bit of bite to the whole story. And I'm going to finish that off with a sauce of fermented strawberries and macadamia and milk.
So, with the next one, we're having a beautiful, very rare variety for South Africa, Albarino from Newton Johnson, the Hemel and Ado. And so usually it really loves like granitic soils, and especially in the Hemel and Ado we have quite a lot of them. And then it gives this beautiful floral, beautiful freshness, almost like a Riesling, but in a much fresher way. And then with this very aromatic and floral dish with the strawberries, so you almost have the feeling of like a fruit salad, but in a beautiful, serious way, and then it just brings it together beautifully.
Now, the first time I ever had Albarino was not in Spain. It was not under the Alvarinho label in Portugal. It was actually here in South Africa, and it was this very wine. We see so little Albarino in South Africa, but the Newton Johnsons have taken this grape and they've made it their own. And this really genuinely is one of my favourite white wines. On its own, I can drink gallons of it with the right dish, and I think this is going to be exactly the right dish. This really is heavenly. So here's one really cool woman in wine supporting another. Johanna bringing in Jessica's sour wine. That is her surname, but also the name of her wine, her Riesling. We don't get a huge amount of Riesling in South Africa, but Jessica does hers superbly. We're at a restaurant with a German and an Austrian. Of course we're going to get Riesling. And this is really, really good South African Riesling. Gives the Germans and the Austrians a run for their money. So from the textbook on how to make people who know their wine realize your wine list is pretty impressive, throw in some Lucas van Lochenberg. Literally in the last decade and less, Lucas has become this absolute beacon of brilliant South African wine, which means if the sommelier has picked up on that, you know, you're doing something pretty cool. What he does, especially with his reds, is combine that soft and elegant and delicate feel with fruit that really describes that Swartland origins, and that's exactly what you've got here. Throw in this is some Warthog. Warthog's never found a better place to come to, and you've got a great combination just the whole night through. We found great wine, great food coming together brilliantly, and sure, the results are terrific. And so wrapping up what has been a quite extraordinary meal, I'm really lucky through the Dan Really Likes Wine platform. I get to travel the world, I get to meet incredible people, spend time with terrific chefs, drink great wine, eat great food, and it's always a really special experience. But tonight's just been something different. It's two people who've come together to bring this food and wine collaboration into such a vividly interactive and exciting space, done so in a way that really brings the best out of each other. And I love the fact that a lot of the wine is completely off the charts. You wouldn't be expecting to find it, and it delivers so much excitement. And the food, well, the food has just been absolutely brilliant. There's a reason this is a place that people are not just from around South Africa, from around the world are coming to visit, coming to try, coming to experience, because it's got something really special to it. So my very simple suggestion is try and get in here. You're going to be in about 7 years to get a booking because that's how busy they are. But when you can, do so. Come through. The food's terrific, the wine's great, but what it really does is it brings the both of them out together in such a wonderful, wonderful way. This really is something special.
If you haven't yet been to the KwaZulu-Natal home of food and wine, that is the Living Room at Summerhill, there's your reason to get there as quickly as you can. An exceptional meal, some dazzling wine pairings, all in a wonderfully relaxed setting with some proper hosts. It really was a terrific night out, and one that I won't be forgetting anytime soon. A big thank you to the Richters, thank you to Joanne from Pillar 9 for putting that evening together, and thank you to the Franschhoek team for a lovely experience in Johannesburg. Another good reason to get back down to Franschhoek and try out a valley I have always loved. That does it for Dan Really Likes Wine this week with Norman Goodfellows. We'll be back with you again next week. Goodbye.